Monday, 5 p.m., September the 13th, 1976, Dr. Reams continued teaching session number 2 on theory of ionization, cause and effects at the Tinker Mountain Motel, Roanoke, Virginia. A copy of this tape may be had by sending $5 and requesting tape number 5-976-2.
One of the things to do is to learn to apply all the energy you've got to the job at hand for the moment you're working at it. Give it everything you've got, and that's all you can do. And one more thing I would ask you to do is do not take your problems to bed with you, unless you're married to her. Okay. But try to leave your office at the office and try to be free from, and when you put everything you've got into it for the moment, and when you've finished, you can say to yourself, I did my best. May not be enough, but that's all you can do. And when you apply everything you've got to the task, it's remarkable how wonderful you will feel. We were discussing beds just a moment ago. I want to call your attention to one of some folks is bad, and unless you have a spinal problem that you have to sleep on a hard bed, don't sleep on one. The softer the bed that you can sleep on, the greater amount of relaxation and rest you can get in shorter length of time.
Get a water bed.
Yes. I heard about a fellow got one, and he loved fishing so much he started raising fish in it. Yes? Somebody have her?
I was going to ask Dr. Reams virtually the same question. Using water beds in hospitals now and everything, and what are your thoughts on that?
I have none. I do not know enough about them. Air mattresses are very nice, but I do not know about the water beds. I've never slept on one. Yes. Actually, the harder the bed, the longer it takes you to get the rest. I think, being that I've been to a lot of chiropractic conventions and they always advertise hard beds there, it's the only place I've ever seen them really advocated. I think it keeps people in the chiropractor's office a lot more. It's good business for chiropractors. Can't blame them for looking after themselves. But if you have a back problem and you need to sleep on a hard bed, good. After I was injured in the war, I had to sleep on a board or in a plaster cast for a year in a board until I was healed. But after that, I got a soft bed, and I can sleep in a hurry. I can cover in about 4 hours what most people do in 8 to 12 hours. And then I generally divide it up in two-hour bunches. So 2 hours after I lay down, and then I wake up and work 2 or 3 hours, and then 2 hours again. But that is if I'm on a soft bed. And if I'm not, I just roll and tumble. If it's a hard bed, what do you want a bed at all for? Why don't you sleep on the floor? But I venture to say, if you get a soft bed and get used to sleeping on it, it takes about a week or two to get used to sleeping on a soft bed. After you have been used to a hard one, you'll be remarkably, you'll notice that you get a lot more rest and a lot less length of time. One of the things I want to call your attention to is about patients. As they begin to get well, they complain, I can't sleep. Insomnia. Well, just tell them, say, praise God for that insomnia. You're getting rested now, you don't need so much sleep, and God is waking you up so you can catch up on counting your blessings. And all you've got to do to go to sleep is count your blessings, and before you get them all counted, you will be asleep. Anything hard about that? And actually, the more you sympathize with your patient about not sleeping, the more they'll want you to sympathize with them, and the more they'll expect of you. So no one has ever died from lack of sleep. No one, but a lot of people have died from worrying about it. There's a lot of difference in lack of sleep and worrying about it. So educate your patient to grow up. To grow up. Yes.
Since we're on sort of miscellaneous, what about hot and cold showers?
Well, I hate showers in any shape, form, or way. Actually, if you really want to get the benefit of a bath, get in a tub of water. Because the top part scalds and the bottom part freezes. And actually, it washes all the oil off your skin and leaves your skin dry. And a hot water tub bath without soap will do a lot better job. Use a washcloth lightly, but also you can put oil back into the water. So actually, a shower is not resting nearly so much as a tub bath. However, that's something that you got to get used to yourself. Yes? Yes? Would you come up to the microphone, please? Well, when the soap doesn't get all the oil off, use some salt. It'll get the rest of it. Yes.
What I wondered was about alternating hot and cold water when you're taking a shower. I'd like to take a warm shower and then finish up with cold water.
That's all right if you want to punish yourself for something you did. There's no scientific reason for it. Yes. Yes.
What about skin brushing? Does that stimulate your oils, or does that solid up good?
I didn't know people brush their skin, except their head. Okay, I don't know. I imagine just like a washcloth, they get all the oil off. Main thing, the brushes, mainly we use the brush with our children more on the bottom end than anywhere else. Yes?
Would you recommend adding anything to the water that would give an enema or a douche?
Well, that all depends on the individual. Would I recommend adding anything to the water for an enema or a douche? That all depends on the situation. Just an ordinary sanitation water is enough by itself. But some people add coffee to enemas and seem to get a lot of benefit out of it. I have no objection to it. On a douche, if there's no virus or infection or fungus, then plain water does a fabulous job. There are some douche waters you buy that have very nice odors and things of that nature that gives you a little bit of extra morale builder. That's very good. So use your judgment. Yes?
On this list you have under problem kidneys. Is there any particular set of numbers that you discuss the kidney problem?
We'll get in that later in this week, later in the kidney problems. Would you like to stand up and stretch for a moment? Talk about the delta cells or the carcinoma cell. I'm going to draw on the board a cell, and it would be actually smaller than the point of an ordinary, the head of a small straight pin. And let's look at inside of a cell and see something that it looks like. Now, you must remember that I said that this cell would look something like the inside, about the size of a small straight pin. And I'm going to take this crayon and just fill up the inside to show that this is actually a cell that would be called an alpha cell, and I'll show you what it will look like as it becomes an delta cell and then an omega cell. be changed eventually in all their books and everything, yes. It'll be changed, yes. In fact, I searched for words and searched and searched and searched. Couldn't find any, so I made some. I've checked it with a number of doctors, and they think that it's excellent. So they feel like that it's the right words to use for it. You were taught that on one side of a cell you have the DNA factor, and the other side you have the RNA factor. Actually, all that they were talking about was that inside of a cell, so to speak, you have the anion and then you have the cation. Actually, this would be the DNA. This is the RNA. This is just an example to help you understand what the DNA and the RNA factor is. Now, this cell would represent a alpha cell. In other words, it's producing its normal amount of energy. As it's producing the normal amount of energy, these numbers are set up so that all numbers would be perfect if all cells are producing a normal amount of energy. But the very moment that a cell starts to lose energy, I'm going to draw this cell in just a little way to show you something, but it's not necessarily the way that it actually takes place in the cell. The first thing that happens in an old cell is that a hollow place appears. In other words, the energy is losing out of this cell, and therefore there's a vacuum left there. Well, in this first vacuum that's formed, the gas forms in this place, heat forms into it. But as it grows a little, and this starts very, very small, you must remember that, as this begins to grow a little bit, then fluid forms in this, and fluid begins to form in this cell, and this fluid forms in it. You'll begin to see it spread out weaker and weaker and weaker. Now, the reason that cell is becoming weaker and weaker is that there's not enough mineral in the diet to maintain it healthy any longer. It's time for it to be exchanged, and there's no mineral to build a new cell, so it keeps losing its energy. It's losing its energy, and fluid is forming in here. And in this fluid, there's a substance like a sponge that's forming inside of this cell, a spongy substance that's forming in this cell. And finally, you'll find that the whole cell begins to die, and then it slowly becomes then an omega cell. So that's the way it's done. But I'm going to draw out another cell on here and show you what may happen in different ways. Cells do not start decaying in the middle. Some of them start decaying out on the side like this. Only I should do it just a little differently, because the cell wall doesn't necessarily break down. It still remains, even though inside it starts to deteriorate in like this. And then there'll be a spot over here somewhere, and then a spot over like this, and another spot in here like this, and another spot like this. Each one filling in fluid in time. And finally, the cell just keeps breaking down, losing energy. And this is the reserve energy going down as the cell breaks down. And this is the way you lose energy. Now, what's that?
Delta cell?
Yeah, the delta cell. This is the delta cell. Now, also, I'm going to take this cell right over here by it. And another cell right in here like this one. this is the way the cells are forming in, and there's another cell that's back in on the side like this. But you can't see all of it. It's the way it weaves into the muscle to make a muscle, and so forth. Now, as the mineral begins to be depleted more and more, the next thing you know, this cell doesn't have enough, and this cell doesn't have enough. The greater the mineral deficiency, the breaking down of the cells are. And as these cells begin to break down more and more because of a mineral deficiency in this organ, then the delta cells form, and then it's malignant if it's growing at a very rapid rate. You can tell the malignancy because of the greater deficiency, the faster this breaking down of the tissue in that area exists. The faster the greater the deficiency, the faster the breaking down of the cells in that particular organ. And cancer is said to grow. Actually, it doesn't grow. It's the flesh starving to death. I'll just give you an example. Did you ever eat a cancer? Any of you? They're delicious. Yeah, a banana. A banana, when it's red ripe, gelatin-like on the inside, all you have to do is stick a popsicle stick in it, freeze it, and it's like a red gelatin inside, like a jello. Freeze it. Now that banana is in a cancerous state. In other words, it's decaying. It's a state of decay. And you can eat that banana full of cancer, and it's just delicious. Absolutely delicious. All the cancer is a state of decay. And in us, the state of decay is cancer. So, have you ever eaten a ripe cherry that was overripe that tasted a little bit like wine? Well, or grape? That usually means cancerous grape. In other words, whenever the tissue breaks down until its next stage before an absolute state of decay beyond any point of rehabilitation or use, then it's simply decaying. And cancer is nothing to be feared or get excited about. It's a process of aging prematurely too rapidly. And all you have to do is to supply the mineral you need, and if there's no damage to the central nervous system or the vagus nervous system or the brain that controls the vital organs, then the body will respond and you'll get well. But if not, if there is damage to that area, nothing will get you well except a miracle of God. So cancer is not an animal preying upon you, ready to hop upon you, or ready to strike you down. It's simply a mineral deficiency. And when the answer to cancer is found, the answer to longevity will be known. This is the way cells break down, and it behooves you to know which organ is deficient, which one is not functioning normally, and what it is composed of, and how to replace those cells. Now, if you had a urea reading on a first reading with a total of 8, what part of the brain would cancer strike in? In the brain, somewhere in the brain. Why? It would be a potassium deficiency. So it would eventually lead to a brain tumor. That is exactly right. So you see, these numbers do not tell you anything. It only indicates the range in which the malady exists. And as you learn to measure this energy, or this loss of energy, is what you're learning to measure, then you will understand how it is that you can pinpoint a malady anywhere in your system or anyone else's system. So this is the way cells work, the way they're made, and the way they're built. Now, one thing I want you to remember is this. Once a cell starts to break down, there's no stopping it. There's no stopping it. God never repairs a damaged cell. He throws it away and puts a brand new one in its place. We're all made out of brand new parts. And every cell in our body should be changed every 6 months. And if it takes longer than that, then we are growing old too fast. So these are facts that you need to know about your body and about the cells and about what to do about them. Now, what foods would you think would be rich in potassium or minerals?
Lima beans, soybeans.
Soybeans, sunflower seeds.
Leafy green vegetables.
Algamin is the richest source of it, yes. Mincol is the next richest source of potassium. Those are the two richest sources of potassium. The others depends upon the soil in which they were grown. The soil in which they were grown. If it was low in potassium, then it's low. So these are the sources. Bananas generally have a little bit more in them than other foods of potassium, but so is fish. Fish is a rich source of potassium, iodine, and iron, as well as phosphate. So these are things you need to keep in mind and to learn them, and learn them well. Suppose that you had a phosphate deficiency. Where do you think the visible sign would be? Cavities is one, that's right. But before the cavities, there's another place it would show up. What's that? Fingernails and toenails, that's right. Those are visible signs of a phosphate deficiency. There are visible signs of worms. What is the visible signs of a person having worms? That's right, hair without a sheen. That's right, itching, yes, itching a lot. These, yes, stomach cramps is another case. Yeah, grinding teeth is another one. That's also a sign of a salt deficiency. Grinding teeth, yes? Not necessarily. That can be a calcium deficiency. Also an itching rectum. We'll come to it in just a moment. Yes. Oh, yes. What is rich in phosphates? Mincol, M-I-N-C-O-L, is the richest source known to man that's available to him. The next is carrot juice is rich in phosphate. Grapefruit juice is rich in phosphate. Cranberry juice is rich in phosphate. Yes? Cracked or white spots, ridges. Breaking, yes?
Just the moons in the finger are white. Is this would this be indicative of a phosphate deficiency?
Yes. Yes. We'll show you this tomorrow. The phosphates in your numbers. Yes?
Ask a question relative to this cell structure you've given us. Dr. Eames has told us in first class that this information came from Ruth Graham's book, I believe,
Yes.
on the cytology of the cancer. And so while I was in Chattanooga in the library, medical library, I looked at that, and they only have the 72 edition. And Dr. Reams was the 63 edition. This information has been left out of the 72 edition, and I wonder why.
I wonder why also, but this is very interesting. I had one doctor tell me that after I come as a skeptic to your course, and he said, I come to break down everything you said. I wrote it down point by point. He said, I went back home and I went to one of the finest libraries that there was, and he said, I looked it up, and he said, I didn't find you wrong once. And I made some pretty broad statements and do make some pretty drastic statements, but you will find a lot of these in books, even though most of my teaching came from the Lord himself. And I just have a question on my desk here. Where did you get your Ph.D.? If I could tell you a college that, or a store that would give you a set of tools that would make you a top-rate mechanic, then I'd brag on the college or the school or the place. But your bag of tools is not depending upon your college or university. It is to a point, but it's how you use those tools that count. I have the diplomas hanging in my office if anybody wishes to see them. That only shows that I passed those milestones, but it isn't the diploma that counts. It's how well you use the information, and that wisdom comes from God. You get your knowledge from man and books, but you get your wisdom from God. So I wish to give him all the credit. But if you want to look in my office, you will see that I have the degrees hanging on the wall, and none of them came out of a diploma mill. Yes.
When you put somebody on a fast and the ureas and salts go down, what is it when the ureas go down but the salts go up? I mean the sugar, excuse me, sugar. Sugar instead of salt.
But many times it's the sugar being released in your system out of the muscles. I answered that about 2 hours ago.
On a fast.
All right, on a fast, yes.
Why did some of them go down instead of...
Because some of them have more sugar stored up in their muscle than others. Yes. Yes?
One thing I failed to add, Ruth Graham was a student and collaborator of Papanica, the daddy of all cancer in the medical profession.
I see. It's quite interesting. Quite interesting. Yes?